Hello everyone, my name is Brian Copeland and we have Molly Healey today for you with the Words and Whiskey. And we have, as always, we have Ty Iechyd Da Whiskey. We just actually started with them, and so I hope that you're excited about that. Molly, how are you today?
I'm good. I have to say I don't make a habit of drinking whiskey in the afternoon, but I'll certainly do it here today for you.
There we go. Perfect. Cheers. All right, so I was actually researching like all of your music and whatnot today.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're sorry. What's your favorite album when it comes to your music? What's your favorite that you like to play still, that you enjoy doing?
Of my albums, that's what you're asking?
Mm-hmm.
My favorite? Well, you know, probably the most recent one. I started from really humble beginnings. My first album was a 2-day experiment in the studio, recording just my cello and my violin and my voice, along with my bass player. And so it was really really sparse, bare bones, lo-fi, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And since then the sound has grown, and the most recent album includes my band. So now it has backing vocals and drums and guitar. And just due to the fact that I was able to collaborate with the other musicians and watch the sound, some of these songs that started from such tiny beginnings, little skeleton ideas, seeds, to grow into these huge sounding songs has just been really rewarding. So probably my most recent album, Circles. Is
that so? The newest album, is that the first one that you did with, like, you collaborated with like an actual band, or is that?
We started that on my second album, Human. So, but that was kind of like the bridge, because that album had still a lot of acoustic numbers, I guess what you would call acoustic. They're still looping, but songs that just included my violin and cello. But then we had a few songs that we orchestrated out with the band on that album. But this most recent one, which was released back in 2019, was the one that was the most full.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love Circles. That's my favorite song, probably.
Oh, thank you.
Whenever, especially seeing it live, it's really cool to.
It's fun to play live. Yeah, it gets real loud.
It does. Yeah, it grows pretty exponentially throughout the entire piece.
Yeah.
So did you start in classical music? I
did, yeah. I guess it's probably hard to miss for people who have actually played or listened to classical music. I'm definitely not your traditional, folk or bluegrass fiddle player. Mm-hmm. Although I've been playing country and bluegrass for a long time now, and it's definitely become a part of me. Being in the area of the Ozarks, you can't be a fiddle player in the Ozarks without letting it become a part of you, and it certainly has. So, and I definitely have been playing country and bluegrass music for longer than I ever played classical music, by itself in high school. So one could argue that maybe that's more where I lean towards now. But definitely classically trained, and I definitely still play a lot of classical music just about every day.
Okay. Did you go to school for classically trained, or did you like just otherwise?
I mean, I did for my voice, but I did not for violin and cello.
Okay. For your voice. So what school did you go to?
MSU. It was called SMS at the time because it was a really long time ago.
Love that one. Well, that's good. So what's your favorite instrument to play? Because you play a lot of them.
Yeah, my cello. Sometimes I'll walk around thinking that no matter how bad things get in life, I play the greatest instrument in the world, so it can't be that bad.
I actually agree. I love the cello.
I love it.
I'm terrible at it.
Sometimes I feel like I am too.
No.
It gets the better of me many, many days.
I'm sure it's a complicated instrument.
It is.
I actually picked one up, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago for like $200.
Oh, okay.
So it was one of those things. It's a pretty decent cello. I mean, I'm sure you would disagree. I don't know.
I mean, if it works, it's cello,
It works. Yeah, I've actually been playing it this week leading up to this because I was thinking about I was going to be interviewing you, so I figured that would
What did you play?
Terribleness.
So we're talking Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, or the Brahms cello sonata?
Concerto, excuse me. Definitely not that. Definitely not Twinkle, Twinkle. I don't even know if I'm quite that advanced.
Gotcha.
I dabble.
Yeah.
And by that I mean I can play some long notes, and that's about all I would probably need in studio for my own stuff. So that's kind of what it's just like more of a depth instrument for me in studio, and that's part of why I bought it. But I don't use it very often because I'm not good.
It really, those string instruments, I tell, I'm a teacher as well, and the violin and the cello, both of them are just, their learning curve right off the bat is just so severe. I mean, you just can't, if you're not used to hearing the sound of a cat dying, then, it may get the better of you in your first year, and it's definitely a hard thing to learn to finesse, and I almost want to say that they weed out the weak, the cello and the violin. If you can't, you got to be able to have some guts and some perseverance to stick with those instruments.
Yeah, the toughest thing for me is going from guitar is the lack of frets. Yeah, and that's always the hardest. Anytime I've tried to play something fretless, it's a little.
I still play out of tune all the time.
I feel like it'd be really hard not to. I don't even understand how you find notes sometimes.
That is a really interesting thing. I've been thinking about this even more recently because I have so many violin cello students now, and watching that learning process has been really eye-opening to me, and it's worth mentioning because I think that how can you judge the exact precise location, especially on a big instrument like the cello, where that 3-finger needs to go, and get it every time. And I'm sure that is a mystery when somebody hasn't ever played one before. Like, how can they remember that? But there's something that happens, the brain is just such a fascinating thing. And so after you've been doing it so many times and you drill that into your memory, they say muscle memory is not a thing. And that is true. You don't have any brains in your muscle, but at the same time, that connection is something that becomes, just deeply embedded into you. And I may not hit it right all the time, but I can definitely tell when I don't hit it. And the other thing is that I have noticed that if I'm just playing something and I'm not thinking, if it's something that I haven't played very much recently and I'm working on something hard, it's really up high or something like that, I notice that I'll be playing, and sometimes, I don't know if you know this, but for us classical musicians, or really anybody that reads music, you can get into a habit of looking at the music and not thinking about what notes you're playing. And so that, especially when you get up into these really high parts where you're way off the staff and you're like, I'm just gonna, oh, that's right, that's what it is. And then you start to practice it that way. Well, you start to, if you think about it and you start to put the connotation together of what letter name that note is up there. I'm getting into the weeds here. But if you start, and I've noticed that you start to subconsciously know that's an E up there or that's a G, and you can actually train yourself a little quicker when you start thinking about it a little bit more actively like that, and you realize that this whole time you knew that was a G up there and you've been learning that even though you might not have been thinking about it that way. I don't know, it's a crazy thing, and you start to also think that when your hand is in this position on the cello, right this exact position, you're used to hearing this note in your brain, and you actually start to make that those connections in your brain without even knowing it, and you go there when you want to hear that note, especially if you're doing improv.
That almost sounds vocal sound.
It is very much connected to what you hear in your head as far as singing, and so I think it's really important, when you're learning to play an instrument like that, to be able to hum lines back to yourself and try to, even if you're not a singer, to try to put that internal connection to the music in your body.
Yeah, I think that way about most instruments. If you watch some of the best solo in anything, a lot of them are kind of singing notes as they play. One of my favorite guitar players who we had the pleasure to open for is Robert Cray. And he's one of those people that is very much like that. He sings all the notes as he's playing them. If you watch some of his his stuff from guitar festivals and whatnot, he's singing all those notes as he's playing them.
Well, and the whole point of being a soloist is to have a line that is a melody, right? And we're not here to, in my opinion anyway, and no shade on anybody who's an extreme virtuosic player and they can play really fast and play a lot of notes. That is something to absolutely respect. But to me, some of my biggest heroes, Dave Gilmour, Miles Davis, these players, they're soloists. may not play the fastest and most technically brilliant lines, but they play things that people can hum along to and sing along to and remember. So you know, all those famous guitar solos, you know, you don't hear as many things about fiddle solos, but you know, it is what it is. But like all those famous solos are something that are so good because you can remember them, and so that vocal connection there is why I think it's really strong. 'Cause really, what music is about is hearing something, I think, that personalizes the sound to us, and vocal is the strongest way to make that connection.
That's true. And I mean, especially since they're not going to have the instrument in their hand while they're in the audience. So it definitely has to be something they can sing along to. I mean, the first thing that I think of when I think of like being able to hum along or sing I feel like most people could sing the solo to Devil Went Down to Georgia. I feel like most people can kind of just sing along with that.
Which is a fiddle tune, by the way.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like it's one of those things. I feel like that's part of why I picked that, because you said you can't think of a lot of the fiddle side of it, but like that is the number one thing that I think of a lot of times whenever I'm out and just like being ridiculous and drinking in the Ozarks, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it's not Georgia.
You and a lot of other drunk people at the bars here.
Oh, I'm sure you get that one a lot, to be honest. And that's, you know, it's probably your version of Freebird.
Yeah, you know, I played it for years, and I feel like I've done my time. I don't want to play it anymore.
I can't say I blame you on that. There's plenty of songs that are $500 songs.
Yeah, exactly.
People are like, "You play this song?" Like, you got $500?
I will, but
when you've been playing long enough, there's too many of those kind of songs, honestly, and it's kind of frustrating. Is that your least favorite one when it comes to that?
Maybe Wagon Wheel.
Yeah, same. That's probably up there for me.
Yeah, I just, you know, if you like the song, it's no offense to anybody that likes that song.
No.
It was a good song, sorta. But I just don't. Once you have heard it and played it so many times, I mean, it becomes really hard not to be resentful about it.
Yeah, I've gotten that way about, I think, Tennessee Whiskey.
Yeah, that was another one.
As somebody that sings relatively like Chris Stapleton, people expect me to be able to
if you are a soul singer at all, then you have to be able to do this song. And if you're not, then what kind of musician are you?
Exactly. and yeah, that's one that recently has become more of a thing for me, because I get asked at almost every show, I think.
Yeah, and it, you know, and to get, you know, we're joking around about this, and it's like I truly understand that some people just want to stay in their comfort zone when it comes to music, and they want to hear what they want to hear, and I don't have a problem with them asking, but I definitely have a problem with the you know, the scoffing when you say, actually, I don't know that song, or, you know, that's not on my list tonight, or that kind of thing, because to me it's like, you know, you can go on your Spotify, and or your radio or whatever you have, and listen to that song anytime you want to, anytime. So you're out here in a public environment, and somebody is playing music to you, and, you know, at some point I think that there's a give and a take, and like, I'm giving you a certain amount of covers. I try to make sure that I bridge the gap, and I'm not just playing an entire set of originals that nobody's ever heard before, because I realize that it's hard for them to connect to me if I don't play anything they know. But at the same time, like, they've got to give me back a little bit something, or audiences have to give artists back a little bit something, and trust them that they're going to play them something that could be really cool if you just give it a second and listen to it. Yeah,
and that's something that I really didn't like about when I went to Nashville. Going to the bars there, I feel like it was the same songs over and over again. I heard in an afternoon, I heard Tennessee Whiskey 5 times, and like, I didn't really know.
And you gotta wonder how people can just listen to those songs over and over again and still want to hear them.
Yeah,
that's what I guess that's what I don't get, and I don't know. I try not to think too much about it anymore, but I really truly can't understand how we can just listen to some of these songs over and over and over again and still want it.
Well, as an artist, like, I mean, I don't think people understand sometimes that we play. You know, we're playing shows all the time, so we're playing these songs. Maybe we'll play this song if somebody asks at every show 4 times a week.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's even that much more of a thing, where we hear other people play it, and then we are asked to play it multiple times a week, and we're like, it just gets to that point where.
But Brian, they tipped you $5, so you should play it.
One guy asked me to pay him on Venmo one time. I don't know if you saw that.
For what?
I can't remember what he asked me to play. It was like, I don't know.
I don't understand. He asked you to give him money.
He asked me to play a song. I told him that I didn't know it, and then he later on asked me for money on Venmo because I didn't know his song.
He wanted to pay you. He wanted you to pay him
because I didn't
for
know
your transgression.
Exactly.
Oh man,
yeah.
I have not heard of that one yet.
Yeah, that was a bad one. He actually apologized to me later because I outed him on social media.
I would out that shit
and he apologized later, which was nice. It was a couple months later, and you know, I appreciated that. It was. But I think a lot of it was because of the backlash. I don't know if he would have apologized otherwise.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You canceled him.
In some ways, yeah. A lot of people. It became like a thing. Like a lot of musicians that I knew were kind of just like railing on him, and
that's really quite unbelievable.
I felt a little bad about it going that far, but it was kind of cool to see that people actually cared. You know,
yeah.
And saw it as a messed up thing because in our society now, who knows what they're going to see it as, you know.
Well, you know, and I feel at some point we have a little bit of leverage here because, I mean, as musicians, I mean, anybody who's a musician knows this, but people who aren't musicians hopefully know by now we're not rich. We don't make a whole lot of money doing this. It's a labor of love. It's very hard. It's long hours. Often we walk out of a bar only making $100, and I don't know if you know this these days, but like when you consider the amount of time that you put into an entire day's worth of the gig between getting there, setting up, playing, tearing down, getting home, I mean that basically amounts to minimum wage. And so, you know, people, you know, when you think about that, like...
It's an 8-hour day.
Yeah, and so, like, when, you know, people act like, we're paying you money to do this, well, we're barely scraping by, and many of us are barely scraping by. I can't speak for everyone, but it is definitely a labor of love. So, I mean, when you think about the fact that these people are asking these things of you and tipping you these... tiny, like $1 or $2, and then asking you to play this ridiculous request, and then getting, you know, offended when you don't want to do it. At some point, you have to, you know, kind of stand up for yourself and just you know, kindly say, I expect kindness from them. They expect kindness from me, but I'm sorry, sir, that's not on my set list tonight. Yep,
and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that there's been a lot of artists that have gone to more of a they want people to request songs, and you know, a lot of that is, you know, it's kind of faking it because they usually have them write it on a piece of paper, put it in a jar, and they pick out what they know. So it's in some ways it's faking that they know every song.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not really, and that's something that I don't think people understand either, and that's something I think that in some ways needs to kind of set the record straight. You know, when it comes to shows, like they don't know all those songs. Request musicians, they know what they pick out of the jar. They know some of those songs. You know, they don't know all of them, and none of us do.
They know what is stored in their mental karaoke machine.
Exactly, and we all have that. I mean, I have 6+ hours of covers. You know, like I have a lot of songs that I know, but I could probably play something from your era, but that doesn't mean I'm going to play the exact song. You know.
But and even more to the point of, you know, artistic integrity, I think that, and I, you know. I have no problem with cover bands and cover musicians. It is definitely a way, not only is it a way to make money, but even more artistically, it's a way to reach your audience. I mean, I play covers, you know, I just
and to grow.
Yeah, it's a great tribute to other artists who have done this. So like, I definitely have no problem for that, you know, and I think that if you're really good at that, that is equally, you know, as deserving respect as someone who writes their own music. But I think that, you know, I wish that audiences could understand a little bit more is that when somebody is writing their own music, to have an open mind, you know, just if you're at a place where a musician is playing both music, or they say, you know, I'm going to play the song that I wrote, give it a chance, you know, or give a chance to a local band you've never heard before that might write their own music, you know, and because the thing I always come back to is that there is a market and a place and a time for cover music, but at the same time, those songs had to be listened to at some point for the first time as well.
True.
And so, not that I will ever write a song that's as important as one of the classics that gets covered today.
But you might.
But who knows? You know. But regardless, they're being written right now,
Mm-hmm.
and they need to be listened to as well. So I think that, you know, I think I was doing another interview this earlier this year, and they asked what my greatest wish was, and of course I have a lot of wishes. Most of them revolve around, you know, a better hope for our future. But, you know, one of my smaller wishes is that, you know, audiences would take a chance on some new music this year.
Yeah,
Listen
that's true.
to something you've never heard before. Give a chance to somebody who writes their own music. Just even once, you know.
And I mean, if you think about how many hours you spend writing music, I mean, I'm thinking about how many hours I spend writing music.
A lot.
I mean, yesterday alone, I spent probably 5 hours writing a song.
That's awesome.
So it's just one of those things where it's, you know, it's you struggle with it. Like, sometimes it's easy. Sometimes you write a song and it's like done. Sometimes you write something and it really just it takes a while. Yeah, sometimes it takes months. You write a lyric that you like, and then you come back to it later, and you come back to it later. And there's some stuff that I, you know, wrote a year ago that I come back to now, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and it's one of those things where, you know, our band has 5 albums now.
That's awesome.
You know, and a few of them are live recorded, but 5 albums in some capacity, plus like 5 singles. You have 3 full albums plus whatever you've done with other people who like, you know, tens of albums probably. I'm sure you have 10, 15 albums that you've worked on, at least. And it's just one of those things. The amount of hours that we put in to
it's
that.
a compulsion. Yeah.
It is. You get obsessive.
You do. We kind of have to do it.
Yesterday was an obsession for me.
Yeah.
I'm sure that my girlfriend was not loving
Well,
the
do you have the finished product now? So did you actually finish it, or was it one of those days where you get to the end of the day and you're like,
it's pretty much done.
That's good.
And I've been writing a lot recently, and so it's all kind of jarbled in my head. You know how that goes whenever you have like a lot of ideas, so you're kind of like on the fence about which one you should pursue, and then you start pursuing one, you're like, I don't like that, and then you go to another one. That's kind of been me the last month. So I took January off in order to write a little bit because I needed to write, and January is the hardest month to book anyway. Yeah. So I figured it'd be the easiest one to take off, and that's what I've been doing.
Sleeting right now, and there's a pandemic. Yeah, not much is going on right now.
Yeah. I've made a goal to write a song a week this month. So
I think it's great. I challenged myself one time to do that as well, and I would post it every week. I don't think I could keep up with that kind of rigorous challenge for good, but that was a really helpful activity for me, and I that's where Circles came from, was my monthly challenge.
That it's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
Honestly, it's probably the best thing that I've done in a while because I needed to write more music. And because last year I only wrote I think 3 songs or 4 songs, and that's way off of my pace.
Yeah.
I'm usually at least 6 to 8 songs a year. Same. You know, and so it's amazing
how fast time can go. Like, so you write a song, and it's amazing how much time can go by where you still feel that song is new. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like, I just wrote that song. Oh wait, I wrote that song in April of last year.
That's like probably 5 of my songs.
Yeah.
I'll play them at a show, and I'll be like, "This is a new song," and people will be like,
"It's like 3 years
heard
old."
This song before. Yeah, that's a thing. That's definitely a thing.
It's like your kids growing up. You just don't realize how much time is going by until it's like way past.
So you've been part of different projects. So Ozark Mountain Daredevil's one. What are some of the other projects that you've been a part of? Like
musical projects?
Or that are bigger projects that you really have.
Yeah. I used to play in Big Smith. That was a while ago, and then since then, one of my first bands was a band called Barefoot Revolution.
Okay. Yep.
And then since then, besides the Daredevils, it's been my solo stuff, and then my full band, which I call the String Project, Molly Healey String Project. And then I also have a band up in Columbia that I play with from time to time called the K Brothers. I also play with Dallas Jones every week here in Springfield at Springfield Brewing Company.
Which I've seen, yes.
And then I also play in a duet with Liz Carney, aka Isabel Crane. We call ourselves the Lace Wings. And I play with a mandolin player up in Columbia. We have a project called Fair Trade, so I've got quite a few pots in the fire.
What's so the what was I thinking? Oh, the string project, right? Mm-hmm. That has are those guys from Columbia?
All of them from Columbia.
Columbia. Is that where you're from, or are you from Springfield?
I'm from Jeff City originally,
okay.
So really close, and I guess that's why my connection to Columbia is so strong.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so you guys are doing an Earth Festival, right? Like an Earth Day Festival, correct?
Yes, we're here in Springfield. We are doing the Earth Day now 2022. It was supposed to be Earth Day 2020. In 2020, it was the 50th anniversary of the Earth Day celebration.
Awesome.
So we wanted to commemorate that, but of course, pandemic. But we've been putting it off and putting it off. We think we're finally, at least hopefully, going to have it this year, April 23rd, at Mother's Brewing Company out in their backyard, and the Hillbenders are headlining. It's awesome. A plastic-free festival. My vision is to have a festival that, unlike most music festivals and big events, I don't even know if you remember, do you remember that climate march and then left behind was mountains of plastic bottles and garbage. So, my idea behind this was to have something that was as close to Leave No Trace as possible. So we're hoping to have compostable food containers, but we're definitely doing a plastic-free festival. We're going to have cups that people purchase upon entry very, very cheaply. But it's a metal cup, and they use it for the day, and then they can bring it home and use it forever. So that's the idea, is that
nothing left
we're not wasting a bunch of plastic just to get together for a day and celebrate the earth. And it's a ticketed festival, and all of the proceeds are going to benefit our three big local environmental organizations: the James River Basin Partnership, Watershed Committee, and Ozark Green Waste.
Awesome. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. You can get your tickets at earthdayspringfieldmo.org, or you can go on Facebook and search Earth Day 2022, or you can go on my account because I post about it all the time. And we'll be talking about it on the radio and the news and whatnot here in Springfield as well. But get your tickets.
So that's 3 years in the making, right? 2 years.
Yeah, we started in 2019.
Yeah.
I tell you, it's become a permanent fixture in my life, but that's a good thing, because I think we're at least 99% sure now that we're going to make this a yearly event, and we are becoming a legitimate nonprofit organization.
Awesome. So,
things are moving in the right direction.
Congrats, that's cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, and it's taken probably that long to do all of that.
Yeah, it's a struggle, and then it's just a lot to put on a festival, and then our idea is to try to raise enough money to to cover the cost of the festival through partnerships and sponsorships, and just getting together with our community so that we can maximize the earning potential and just give us the entire profits over to these organizations. So we're really trying hard not to have to take any money out of our ticket sales to pay back things. So we're almost there. It's been quite an event, but it's been an amazing. To me, it's been really amazing how much the community is getting behind this. So it's making me feel good. It's giving me the warm fuzzies.
Yeah, you guys have different sponsors, right? You have 4 different sponsors.
We have
5
different presenting sponsors, and then a lot of other sponsors. So yeah, we're getting a lot of different partnerships going on and making a lot of relationships.
Good. Good for you. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Well, I think I'll probably do one more thing just for...
Okay.
I usually ask this question just because I think that it's important for us to kind of show a different side of us. What is the silliest thing that you find to be about yourself? Like something that you do, something that you love, something that most people maybe don't know about you, but it's just really just random.
Let's see. Well, that's a tough one. I've got a pretty good case of OCD, if that is really a disorder. I don't know, but I know it can be. I don't think that it harms my life in any way, but I certainly have OCD. And I find that probably one of the strangest manifestations of that is that I'm very like motivated to get everything done, and I'm like, so you know, if the dinner is finished, then I will wash the dishes immediately. If the floor is, you know, I have 2 cats, so if it's got cat litter on it, I sweep it up fastidiously 3 times a day. And I'm not necessarily a neat freak, but you know, I've been really trying to like declutter my life and stuff like that. And then, you know, that boils also into my work. If I want to start working and practicing on something, then I'll just like fixate on it and things like that. But I have this funny habit of leaving it down to the final detail, and then I'm just like, screw it. So, for instance, when I wash the dishes, I will almost always leave 1 dish in the sink. And I have no idea that I'm
That's
doing it.
random. That's awesome.
But like, I will leave a fork in there, and it's almost like I'm compelled to do that. I have no idea why.
So that you can come back and do more work later?
I don't know. It's like, I think it's that I literally think that's enough. Like, I have done this task enough to pass.
Well, you don't do that with your music, which is...
I think I do.
Not that I gather. I don't know. I kind of do that with music. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna write this awesome verse, this awesome this awesome hook, all this awesome stuff, and then the bridge comes around, and I'm like, yeah, I'll just play a solo.
I totally do that. Totally do that. Or like, I'll get down to like, I'll like pour over the lines, and then I'll get to where I just need 1 line left. And I'll just be like, screw it, I'll just repeat something. Or, you know, like, I'll just say it.
It's so true.
I've gotten enough done. So,
it gets hard sometimes to write that like last piece.
That last little detail.
Like the bridge especially is for some reason hard for me. Like
is,
some sort of change in the song is like, God, man, I really, like, I've been writing such a good song. If this isn't good, then the song's going to suck, and it's going to be my fault.
Or like, I'll mop the floor, and I'll do it really well, but then I'll be like, I don't need to turn that mat over and mop it. I'm done. It's just, it just like every single aspect of my life, for some reason, I will leave it down to that last detail and not do something. I have no idea why.
Well, I could probably talk to you forever about all of this stuff.
We could waste a lot of time.
I don't think a lot of people would really appreciate that.
They've already tuned out, right?
So let's talk about the whiskey again.
Okay.
Ty Iechyd Da whiskey through...
it's tasty.
Through SBC. This is actually the rye, and they have rye and
it is actually really smooth. I've been paying attention to the conversation, but it's really nice.
It's a really easy drinker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would
like
say
it.
I thought about having it in my coffee this morning. Well, I guess it's this afternoon. I think that's part of why I didn't. But
I did it a couple of times over the holidays.
Right, whiskey in the coffee. Yeah. But anyway, thank you so much for
thanks for
joining
having me.
today.
This was fun.
And I'm hoping to get even more of awesome musicians like yourself on. And thank you all for watching, and we'll see you soon. All right.